Interesting facts about famous people.
Australian Western movies since 1980. The Australian Western, also known as the meat pie Western or kangaroo Western, is a broad genre of Western-style films set in the Australian outback or the bush. Movies about bushrangers are included in this genre. The term meat pie Western is a play on the term spaghetti Western, used for Italian-made Westerns. Since Westerns are a genre associated with the United States, the food qualifiers indicate the origin of other cultures that play with the characteristics of the Western genre. Some Australian Westerns were made specifically with the influence of US Westerns in mind. The Ealing Westerns, made in Australia, are a particular example of this, though they draw on Australian history. One connection has been the parallel between the two native people and their treatment by settlers and the white colonists. In the case of Australia, Aboriginal Australians, and in the US, the Native American Indians. Cattle ranches and vast tracts of land are both similar themes, being borrowed from the US Westerns and used in Australia. An example is the movie The Overlanders, 1946. Here are some Australian Westerns, meat pie movies, made since 1980. The Man from Snowy River, 1982. In 1880s Australia, after young Jim Craig's father dies, he takes a job at the Harrison Cattle Ranch, where he is forced to become a man. Directed by George Miller, starring Kirk Douglas, Tom Burlinson, Terence Donovan, Jack Thompson, Tony Bonner, and Sigrid Thornton. Robbery Under Arms, 1985. The fourth adaptation and first made for television of the classic Australian bushranger novel Robbery Under Arms. Directors Donald Crombie and Ken Hannum. Stars Sam Neill, Stephen Vidler, Christopher Cummings, and Liz Newman. Return to Snowy River, 1988. Young Jim Craig returns to his home in the Australian high country. He finds that things are not as he left them. His girlfriend Jessica is being pursued by another man, and her father Harrison doesn't want him back in her life. Director Jeff Burrows. Stars Tom Burlinson, Sigrid Thornton, Brian Dennehy, Nicholas Eadie. Quigley Down Under, 1990. Sharpshooter Matt Quigley is hired from Wyoming by an Australian rancher paying a very high price. But when Quigley arrives down under, all is not as it seems. Director Simon Windsor. Stars Tom Selleck, Laura San Giacomo, Alan Rickman, and Chris Haywood. Lightning Jack, 1994. Lightning Jack Kane is an Australian outlaw in the Wild West. During a bungled bank robbery, he picks up mute Ben Doyle as a hostage. Director Simon Windsor. Stars Paul Hogan, Cuba Gooding Jr., Beverly D'Angelo, Kamala Lopez. The Tracker, 2002. A government trooper who is heading an expedition to find an Aboriginal man accused of murdering a white woman. Others in the expedition are the follower, a greenhorn trooper, the veteran, and the tracker. Director Rolf de Heer. Stars David Gulpilil, Gary Sweet, Damien Gameo, Grant Page. Ned Kelly, 2003. An innocent man becomes one of the most wanted criminals the world has ever known. Director Gregor Jordan. Stars Heath Ledger, Orlando Bloom, Jeffrey Rush, Naomi Watts.
Ned Kelly. Pleased to meet you.
The Proposition, 2005. A lawman apprehends a notorious outlaw and gives him 9 days to kill his older brother, or else they'll execute his younger brother. Director John Hillcoat. Stars Ray Winstone, Guy Pearce, Emily Watson, Richard Wilson. The Last Confession of Alexander Pierce, 2008. 8 men escape from the most isolated prison on earth. Only one man survives, and the story he recounts shocks the British establishment to the core. This story is the last confession of Alexander Pierce. Director, Michael James Rowland. Stars, Adrian Dunbar, Dan Wiley, Don Hannay. Shadows of the Past 2009. Steve Kelly, a retired rodeo champion, accepts a rematch with notorious bucking bull Black Friday, the same bull that ended his career several years ago. Steve must also deal with the return of his estranged wife, Danny. Director, Warren Ryan. Stars, Jordana Allen, David Barry, Justin Qualquan, Phil Hurd. Red Hill, 2010. A young police officer must survive his first day's duty in a small country town. Director, Patrick Hughes. Stars, Ryan Quanten, Steve Bisley, Tommy Lewis, Claire Vander Boom. Wild Boys, 2011. Australia 1860s. Wild Boys follow a gang of bushrangers as they stage hold-ups, determined to keep ahead of the troopers or wind up at the end of a noose. Stars, Daniel McPherson, Michael Dorman, Alexander England, Zoe Ventura. Thanks for your time today. I hope you liked the video. Drop me your comments. I appreciate likes, shares and subscribers. It helps me a lot. Bye for now.